So, welcome to the weekly press briefing of the Presidential Press Secretary here at the Executive Mansion. So, if you're joining us, this is Spoon. I'm Joris Joe. I'm here with John Sylvester, and we're here to bring you the full press briefing here at the Executive Mansion. So, keep following as we bring you the full press briefing here at the Executive Mansion.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press. We want to welcome you to this edition of our weekly press briefing. And interestingly, today happens to be our first press briefing of the new year. I want to say Happy New Year to all of you, and you all were missed greatly during the time that weren't here. Again, those of you who are following on different mediums, on social media, on other platforms, radio, television, want to welcome you to our first edition of the regular press briefing here at the Executive Mansion. This press briefing intends to inform the public as to the happening of the presidency, updating the country on the president's actions and what he's doing and where he's taking our country to. So those of you who are following in the counties, our local team there want to welcome you all here to all the different radio stations carrying this live. While we welcome all of you, today happens to be the birthday of a member of the Executive Mansion Press Corps, Ms. Vashta Talu. She's not here today because they're having a meeting at the LDS compound. But we want to wish her very, very happy birthday. And those of you who will be celebrating with her, please extend our sincerest birthday wishes. So as I said, the president has been very busy. It's been a very busy week, as always, to continue the workings of the Liberian people. We began the weekend in Bomi County, where he had gone to attend activities marking the celebration of the citizens of Bomi, thanking the president and the government for the support and the work and the role that he's played so far, and to really extend appreciation to the citizens there for what they continue to do. And they also thank the Bomi citizens for the overwhelming support to the president, the rescue mission, and the entire government. So from Bomi, the president and entourage had gone to Grand Cape Mount County to attend the grand opening of the 2024-2025 National County Sports Meet, where in Raba Sports the opening ceremony was held. The president did the kickoff and he spoke to the citizens in the country on the need for ensuring that unity and sportsmanship is welcome. And that the president also watched a portion of the soccer match between Grand Cape Mount County, my beloved Grand Cape Mount and Nimba County, over the weekend. It was not a very happy one for us, but you know it is what it is. But yeah, this is all intended to connect our country, to bring peace, unity, and togetherness for all. More so, we hope and wish that Grand Cape Mount will perform very well over the coming weekend. On tomorrow, actually, the team is playing there in Raba Sport. Our wishes to all of you there in Cape Mount and across the country. The president was back in Monrovia, where he had gone to sign a book of condolence for the late Senator Prince Yomi Johnson at the legislature, on the grounds of the National Legislature. He also had a very important meeting with the delegation, the vice president of the World Bank, who was visiting the country, and he headed the World Bank delegation to meet the president to talk about the different programs for Liberia. And also, our president re-emphasized the interest and need for energy and that the bank's support is needed, as always, to ensure that we have a vibrant energy sector. Following that, that meeting was really very, very important. And on yesterday, the president had a very beautiful continuation of his activities, had a couple of meetings, but the day before was in Grand Bassa County to launch the National Development Plan, the Arrest Agenda. And interestingly, this portion of the Arrest Agenda, it did not just come as the agenda itself, but there was also the county development agendas for the 15 counties that were also developed. So the Arrest Agenda for inclusive development is the agenda for the next 5 years, beginning this 2025, going towards the end. And this agenda gives the country a picture of where we are and where we intend to go. And as you know, Liberia has what it calls the Vision 2030. Liberia's Vision 2030 is a vision for the country that was developed and launched sometimes in 2012. And every regime, every government who have come since that time develops a development plan that will take that particular regime to the ending of the regime. And all of the development agenda, all of the programs they intend to implement culminate into the agenda. And for this, Arrest Agenda for Inclusive Development is a pivotal portion where we do have the county development agendas coming to implement what the agenda is saying, because the agenda is the bigger vision, the bigger picture, and the individual county development agenda will ensure that the agenda is implemented at county, district, and community levels. This portion was really very important. And the president continued to engage. He's had several different meetings with key partners, and he's going to Nimba County tomorrow to participate in activities of the funeral, the state funeral, in honor of Nimba County Senator, the late Prince Yomi Johnson. So these are key things he's done over the course of the week, and we look forward to taking your burning questions and listening to what you want us to talk about, and we'll continue to give you updates as it relates to what's happening at the presidency. Thank you all very much. Good afternoon. As always, state your name and your institution and your question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Julius Compton, and I report for Fortune TV. I'd like to get update relative to SONA how far preparations concerned. And the president, during the course of this week, through a press statement on the executive mansion page, suspended the NEC boss, and that has triggered mixed views in the public. And some of them are, among other things, saying that the decision of the president was more political than that of investigative before coming towards a decision. What's the stance from the end of the president's office?
Thank you very much. My name is Joseph Daniels, and I report for OKFM. I'd just like to add up to the question that Julius asked. Was the president's decision legally supported? Because there have been arguments that it is not legal for the president to suspend the NEC boss. So can you tell us what legal instrument the president relied on to suspend the National Elections Commission boss? And also the launch of the a rest agenda for inclusive development. I saw the breakdown which talks about 30% the government being responsible for that, and the entire document talking about 8 billion over the 5 years period. Will that amount also cover the county development agendas as well, or is there another projection for the county development agenda? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Fofana. My name is Stephen Sompon, and I report for Crown FM and TV. I'm much more concerned about the President's grace period towards government ministers appointed in his government on their access declaration, as they claim by the President to take action against those who did not meet up with the deadline of declaring their assets. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will start with the number one. Where are we so far when it comes to the annual message? So yes, there are preparations currently ongoing. There's a team from the executive, the legislature that are working seriously, working to ensure that the SONA is successfully held. The team have been meeting. The legislature, in fact, of most recent, the update that I received was that they both, the Senate and the House of Representatives, they've met, especially on the decision of the venue, because we know the legislature portion of it was gutted by fire, and they are working on sending a final decision to the president or the executive on the venue of the annual message. And once that is communicated to us here, we will let you all know where the venue will be. But other activities are ongoing. GSA and the rest of the team that normally work on the SONA, they're all in course and working together to ensure that it's successful. As to specific details of the venue, as I mentioned, and other details that are necessary, we will be giving you those updates as we receive them. On the question of the suspension of NEC bus, whether it was more political than investigative, absolutely not. It wasn't political. I can tell you that I'm sure you do recall a while back that the Office of the President, during the impasse when it started with the staff, when the complaints came and there were long-term protestation back and forth, there was a team that the president set up from here that was in charge of that investigation, went to the National Elections Commission, held meetings with different segments of the team there, including the aggrieved employees. And then there was a letter written on the directive of the president by the Minister of State to the NEC bus to, hold on for different actions that she was taking, particularly not to shut down the office for a period of a month, also not to dismiss or the employees that were there, and those, specific actions that she was advised, to withhold those actions. Unfortunately, they weren't adhered to. So, of course, the investigation was ongoing and then back and forth, and they advised him that the action that was taken very recently was the best plausible and possible action should be taken. Whether it was legal, absolutely, as you all know, that the president has the authority to suspend or dismiss or take action against officials that are working, that are members of the executive. And the NEC is one of those institutions that is a member of the executive. And the president, yes, I do understand, or we do understand that there are constitutional benchmarks, especially because NEC is one of those institutions that are within the Constitution that is tenure. We understand all the lingering questions. However, whether or not the president legally acted, absolutely, the president can take action with those institutions for a cause, and the letter that was written explicitly stated in those. And because it's a suspension, I can confirm now that there have been a number of conversations happening concerning the status and what's going to be the next course of action. And I can tell you it is a very active discussion. The president have had meetings with the rest of the Board of Commissioners, including the suspended chairperson of the NEC, and the interest of the president is to ensure that NEC remains a stable institution, that NEC remains void of any political challenges, issues that will undermine the independence and integrity of NEC, and that that institution should remain strong enough where any member of the commission, whether the chairperson or any other member, will work in line with their laws and rules governing the institution. That is, not to work in isolation, but in consonance, and specifically what the law says, that all decisions should be with the acquiescence of the rest of the members of the Board of Commissioners. So the interest of the president is to ensure that that institution is strong and strengthened, and he will do everything legally possible to ensure that that happens. So I can again confirm that there are active conversation happening, and you all will be communicated to as to the next course of action. But yes, the action was indeed legal, and the president has legal authority as per the Constitution and other legal instruments to take the action that we should take. In terms of, she said 30%, okay, the arrest agenda for inclusive development. So the arrest agenda for inclusive development, yes, it's a budget that was allocated, and absolutely the county development fund or the county development plan do not work in isolation of the overall agenda. They all work to support one another. So yes, it's a broader agenda and to implement. So there will be projects or programs that are national based, or the institutions that are broad based. So for example, if you take a sector like the energy sector, we know the energy sector is a major sector, or even infrastructure sector. So, but at the county level, you'll have those programs that will also be within the agenda. So, for example, if the agenda talks about infrastructure or road development, so say in Great Cape Mount County, for example, if the highlight is to ensure that the road from Medina to Rabasburg is built, within the county development plan, you'll have that project listed. And the rest agenda will also speak to that. So resources will be, so there will definitely be projects that will be broad-based, and then there will be county-specific projects that cut across. And that's where both the overall agenda and the county development plan, they speak to each other. And then the most important part of this is that they both, there is a monitoring and evaluation mechanism that the team at the Ministry of Finance will put in place, so that yes, it's a 5-year plan, but then there's also an annual, work plan, there's an annual checking, there's an annual evaluation to see where we are. And interestingly, as you know, all of the ministers did sign their performance contract. So the understanding is that every minister who's heading a sector, or not necessarily having to head a sector, but heading an agency, and that agency is supposed to perform based on their rest agenda and the county development plan, they both will work, hand in hand. So if you're not able to achieve what is laid out, then you will definitely be called into, questioning and to see. So the goal here is to ensure that our development plans work in consonance of one another, and not one doing and then not doing, overlapping. Because one of the other issues that has been across government for many years is this issue of overlapping. There's limited resources, but people are doing different things. Everybody doing almost same thing, but they're not talking to each other. But the goal here is to ensure that this is connected. The overall plan, the county plan, and the individual, plan, and that those agencies and those institutions and ministers will also supervise and spearhead those ones. That's why they have the different cluster group, or you will, where you have the plan, the group that is in charge of the economy, the security sector, all these different working groups are there to make sure that these, have things to work out perfectly. So deny isolation. On the question of access declaration, I've said this, and the president has taken a number of different action, and he also encouraged. Again, as soon as the president makes or takes an additional action, I will definitely inform all of you on that. But yes, this is something that the team have updated the president as to the current status, and we will be making some decisions shortly. Yes.
Yes, again, I'm Julius from Fortune TV. Just during the course of this week, there have been issues of corruption, quote unquote, from two key government agencies, allocations, and you name it. One is from MPhil and also the Liberia Broadcasting System. What's the president's stance on the fight against corruption, especially from two key agencies or institutions of government?
Thank you, PBS, Dr. And I work for Spoon Network. My colleague asked a question relating to government officials declaring the assets, and you responded by saying the president has taken some actions. Would you like to be definite or specific what are those actions that the president has taken? That's one. And I asked this question the last time, but I didn't get the response. But maybe the media actually affected. The news of the private jet by the president. Can you tell us whether the Liberian government spend any money for the president to use private jet for official trade, or a kind gesture? What can you say about this private jet issue?
Okay, thank you. Joseph Garners again. Just a follow-up on the first question I asked concerning the NDC issue. When the statement was released, which I had for a year, the statement cited that the president cited section 2.1 and section 2.10D of the election law, which there's authority to conduct NEC affairs in the board which the head of NEC violated. I'm wondering why this statement did not also carry the law which gives the power to the president in order to, suspend or expel an official of the NEC. Will you do that for us, Madam Press Secretary? It would be very much significant, because in the statement we see law referencing what the NEC was violated, but we didn't see any reference as to the authority that the president carries in that, because he has been criticized for doing that. And on the arrest of gender for inclusive development, one thing that also observed is the priority given to maternal and newborn death in Liberia. To what extent does the president consider this as a threat to Liberia that is so eager to work on to include it in his 5 years agenda? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was actually trying to pull out the Constitution here to tell you exactly what you wanted to hear, but we'll pull it out shortly. So let me start with the question of the issues of corruption with MPhil and LBS. So I can confirm that, yes, there have been some information around the National Public Health Institute as to individuals within the institution who were involved in some act of corruption, and the institution have taken some actions. And once the president is adequately briefed, and then what action he takes, I will also inform all of you. With the issue of LBS, I'm not quite sure. And the other thing about the presidency, when these institutions, there are allegations of corruption, the expectation is that a proper process will be in place. So where there's an allegation, for example, the expectation is that a report or note or some update is sent to the presidency, and then the president can intervene or find out what the situation is by setting up a committee. But as you know, LBS has a board, and issues relating to internal issues, the board get informed about it. If there's a need to elevate it to the issue of the presidency or the president, that will happen. And then also, you want to be able to make sure that not everywhere everyone will just say, oh, there's an allegation here, allegation there, and then they jump on it. But I also do know that the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission has the authority where the allegations or perceived corruption in any of the public institutions, they have the legal authority to intervene, to take seize of the matter, to investigate. So I hope that those institutions or that quote-unquote issues relating to corruption and LACC can also intervene to ensure that the right thing gets done in those institutions. On the president, whether the president has taken action to the president have only been briefed that I know of Enfield, but LBS, as we know, is developing. We do know there have been some internal issues, staff problems, and back and forth with the administration. But to ensure that whether that was corruption or whether the president intervened, it's not gotten to that point. And we want to also make sure that not every internal issues the president, gets involved with it. That's why you have institutions like the CSA, you have the boards, you have these different administrative structures that they're able to intervene to put things under control before it gets to the level of the president. Once it gets to the level of the president, meaning now it means that there's no other way to solve the problem. So the president will be interested in showing that at those levels, problems are solved before they get to, to accept where what someone would say a wanton act of corruption or other major issues that concerns his attention. Because of course the president is really very busy with a number of national and state-related matters. So why the letter that the president wrote did not reference his authority? Joseph, I don't think the interest is to, the fact that the president is the president, he decides the language in which to write institution, but to think that every time he writes, he should say, I'm writing you, or I'm taking this action because section this point this, or constitution chapter and article gives me this authority to do that. I think it goes without saying. The fact that the president is writing you and taking such an action, the president is within the law to do so. So he doesn't have to come and say, I am writing you because constitution article 6.6 give me the authority to do that or whatnot, The president writes how the president writes and how he wants to write the institution. If there are, for any reason, if there are any issues, for example, if the person was rating or anyone have issues, that's why it's a country of law. If the aggrieved party feels that they're not in the legal bounds, you take action. You go to court, you get other interpretation and question the legality. But as an institution of the executive, the president has a right to dismiss or to take actions in line with the law. And specifically, it says for a cause. And the president acted for a cause, and he took the action. And as I explained earlier explicitly, that even though the suspension is on, the active action going on, conversation happening, the president had a meeting with the members of the board of commission. And, because the interest of the president is to ensure that NEC is stable and the integrity of that institution remains intact, and there's any interest of any form of political interference and manipulation, if that is a bigger question. But no, the president has no interest whatsoever in that line. So he will do everything possible to make sure that NEC remains as independent as it was, and to make sure that they, as an institution, follow their own rules and the rules governing the country. On the issue of maternal and newborn, this arrest agenda talks about many other issues, and within the health component, maternal and newborn health remains paramount concern within the health sector, and having it as a key area within the agenda tells us that the care should be given to the young generation, the newborn, is showing that mothers do not die while giving birth or while giving life, and that women health, very important, because we know in this country there are places where women suffer when it comes to access to basic health care. I can share with you all a very traumatic issue or story that happened. I remember when during the course of the campaign, we have gone to Golakone, and those of you who are familiar with Golakone, is a long stretch, especially during the rain season, from TNE all the way to Jenewene, going to a very bad road. I had to pick up a pregnant woman who was walking for miles to come to see a health facility. It took her such a long time. So luckily when we saw her, we asked her where she was going. And the nearest health facility was almost 2 hours drive. Imagine a pregnant woman walking on that. So it is a very important, part, because maternal health is pretty much the foundation of health care. Because before you grow up, you have to be born, and your mother have to give birth to you. And if we can really take care of the maternal health and ensure that we don't have newborn dying that early, and ensure that we have a strong healthcare system, and children reach their 5th birthday all the way up to until they're adults, just the healthcare system should be strong enough to support that. And the interest of the president in this arrest agenda is to make sure that that happens. On the question of a private jet, first of all, Sylvester, the president, majority of the president's travel out of Liberia, the international travel, he travels commercial. And the fewer times that the president has traveled on flights that are for other chartered services, very few. And those times, they're out of necessity. I'll give you a very practical example. So when the president went to Abuja, sometime last July, I was on that visit. The president rode in a commercial flight. And when the state visit is happening and there are leaders coming from everywhere, there is a whole ceremony where leaders come in their individual flights or jets or however you will, and come to the tarmac. There's a review of the guards of honor. There's a full ceremony. So normally, almost all of the presidents who have gone to such a ceremony travel there on their own or private flight or charter flight. And there's a whole ceremony. The red carpet is brought in front of the flight. And unfortunately for our president, who had traveled on commercial, on an Askai flight, it was a very embarrassing time. I was on that flight. In fact, when the president came out of the aircraft, because it's a commercial flight, they had to go to where the passenger is supposed to disembark. And because he's supposed to come on the tarmac, they had to bring the vehicle on the tarmac from all the way where the VIP activities was happening, the guards of honor, where they had to come there. And the president had to come through the side of the plane. Those of you who have flown in different planes, you will see they have the regular entry on the side of the plane, where sometimes with the extra baggage, the flight attendants and others will take that and carry it to where they're supposed to put baggage on the side of the plane. He had to get out of there and stood on the tarmac for almost 10 minutes because there were challenges with security clearances to get the cars from where the VIP was to come on the tarmac to where the commercial flight should park because other passengers are on board. It's a big flight. It doesn't have to go over there. And before the team got there, it was almost between 5 to 10 minutes. Very embarrassing scene. Finally, the vehicle came. All of them came and walked through, went to where the activities were happening. And in fact, all of the team there, they didn't understand. I mean, our counterpart from the other place, they didn't understand why it was like that. Very embarrassing. There's a ceremony. So sometimes flying on charter flight is out of necessity. Very important for the president to do. And also sometimes when he's traveling to very important meetings where it should take you a short while, because it's a commercial. I've been with the president on some visits where you see the president will transit sometimes a couple of hours in one plane or in one airport. He sits there waiting to get to his next destination. Sometimes 8 hours. Sometimes you have to even do short stay, because if you somewhere and then the flight is the next day or the next hour, you have to stay there for go and get a hotel that you're not going to sleep, a short stay in a place before you get on board your actual flight. It has been really very embarrassing at times. So where there's a necessity, the president travel on a charter flight. And majority of the time, I can say it has not been out of state coffers. It has not been out of state coffers. So again, I understand there have been a lot of concerns about the president's traveling privately, but majority of the president's travels and his visits have been on commercial. Either Brussels, Ethiopian Airlines, Askai, and you name the rest. Majority of his travels. Few of his travels that was very necessary, or that were very necessary. In fact, the most recent one, when he went to Abuja, again at the ECOWAS Summit. The ECOWAS Summit, as I mentioned, there's a whole ceremony. As you disembarking your aircraft, the red carpet is rolled in front of the stairs. You just walk there, you have your delegation come and welcome you, the other delegation from the country welcomes you. There's a cultural performance, and there's a lot of other things that happen before you are welcome, and you stand under the shade, they receive you with the guard of honor, you walk around and inspect the guards. In those instances, and in those very important instances, the president takes privately chartered flights. So I hope that this explanation and this understanding will lay this whole issue of quote-unquote private jet. Majority of the president's travel have always been commercial. But where it is so necessary, there are places that he has to be urgently. And because you can't wait for commercial flight for all these years, all this time, and passengers have to move, and the challenges, sometimes it's even more cheaper at times. Because the time you're going to transit to another place, you have to transfer to another plane, you have to wait, and all of those. So I hope that, again, like I said, this explanation put to rest the issue of the private jet. The president has majority of the time. And maybe the question about, I heard people were asking earlier, whether the government, because someone suggested the procuring of a private jet. I can explain to all of you that that is not the president's priority at the moment. The priority of the president is to work for the Liberian people, in the interest of the Liberian people, and solve the most critical challenges as we have today. Challenges of food security, maternal and newborn health, and other major issues, electricity. So currently, to acquire a private jet, it is not within the immediate priority of the president. Thank you. So with that,
Any follow-up
we have, yes, please.
Yeah, talking about the private jet issue, you mentioned that at certain times, due to some constraints, the person will have to go on a charter flight. And can you mention how much do we pay for charter flights? And also, if he is receiving flight, who are those he's receiving the flight from as gift? Are they business people? Are they state parties? Maybe specifically give us some of this information.
Well, I can't, because I'm not in the part of the business side to know how much we pay for the flight. I think the administration will know more about those kinds of information. But I can say that, I mean, like I've said, the private flight thing is just out of necessity that the president uses them, and you will definitely use them where it is deemed necessary.
Yeah, just a follow-up and a clarity. You stated that, especially when it comes to the private flight, is not from the government covers. Is that true?
I said majority of the time. Majority of the time.
Okay, then my second follow-up is this government then in opposition, I can recall, through key executives, heavily criticized the past government, headed by former President George Weah, of also using private flights. How can you reconcile that then with the current situation?
So I had to do the propaganda communication, and I've said this a number of times. Our business here will not be to compare or to say because this person did, so we're going to do, or we're doing this based because the person didn't do well. And people who are involved with the propaganda communication can go, but I can tell you that the president using chartered flight, it's out of necessity. The president will not just be going somewhere, a visit that will require that you can take a commercial flight and get there easily and say I'm going to take a chartered flight. It's not going to do that. Again, the president, out of necessity, will use privately chartered jets. And the other thing about it, there is not a single private jet and say this is from a friend or this will be the private jet that the president will use when he needs to use it, when the necessity or when that happens. Because he doesn't have a situation where he has a friend who put the private jet package somewhere and brands it and put his picture on it or keep it there to quote unquote boost his morale. That will not happen under the president's watch because he's not interested in that. And it's not going to be where a friend who has a business interest wants to take contracts and here and there. So where there's a necessity and there's a need to charter a flight that will take the president to an engagement very quickly rather than waiting on a commercial flight for hours and the inconvenience and going here and there, where there's a need, he will take them. And then the proper procurement processes will happen when it gets to a point where the president or the government has to procure that or to use the service. And then definitely it's not going to be one flight, like I said, where is necessary and for the purpose in which and what is available, that will happen. And the rest of the procurement processes, the financing and whatnot, will go through the legal approved process that should happen. So, I mean, that's what it is and that's what it's going to be. But the difference, as you kept asking, is not going to be where you have a picture on a flight sitting, or you have a friend who has business interests, give you a flight to boost your morale, or every visit you want to do in a sub-region, or just somewhere here you want to visit a friend, or you want to go to some important engagement, or something that you can naturally take a commercial flight, you want to do that, and just all over the place. And I hope these comments will not be taken out of context. And because you asked, and like I said, I'm not into the business of getting into propaganda, but I can tell you that the interest here will be to do the Liberian people business, to fly on a charter private flight where it's needed, where it's necessary, because it is out of utmost necessity. Out of utmost necessity. where there's any majority, if not 90% of the president's travel have been commercial. You can check with our administrative team and they'll tell you on the airport when the president boards a commercial flight. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful Friday.
All right, so folks, so that was the voice of the presidential press secretary, and that's how we come to the end of this press briefing. And here at the Executive Mansion, I'm John as usual. This podcast. Thank you for following. Bye bye.